Okay, on number 18, continuing on, lesson 93, algebra 1. First thing, if you're going to solve by factoring, is to get everything to equal 0. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 4 on both sides. And these aren't like terms, so you end up with 9x squared minus 4. The difference of two terms is always factorable. And you use the conjugates of each other. And then again, P and Q, both parts can equal 0. You find that x, if you do the math, is 2/3, and x is negative 2/3. Problem 19, solve by graphing. Y equals x, and y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. First of all, this problem is plus 0. So if I'm going to do the slope-intercept form, 0 is my y-intercept. Again, the slope of this is 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. The whole way. And we can quickly see the line here. I'll put all these dots. Give us. And there is the line. And again, x and y are labeled. On the other one, negative 1/2 x plus 3. Go to plus 3. Rise negative 1, run 2. So down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, and you look, there is a point of intersection. Down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. Yeah, if I do it right here, and solve by graphing. So we have to read this point right here. Over 2, up 2. The point, the solution to 19 is 2, 2. That's the answer. The graph is what I need to see. Problem 20 is 2 equations and 2 unknowns, x and y, and 2 equations. So it is solvable. And it says use elimination. And this is a fairly easy one this time because when you look at the x coefficients, 3 and 5, you could do it with that. But when you look at the y coefficients, positive 4 and negative 4, we can add anything we want. So I'm going to add the same thing to both sides. 0 and this stuff, they're the same because of that equal sign. I can do anything I want as long as I do it to both sides. When I add up this side, I'm going to get 8x. On the other side, I'm going to get 32. This is part of our times table. Boom, x equals 4. I'll use equation A. Find y. And again, sometimes the math is easy enough. I can do this step. 4y equals 20. And I know y is 5. So my answer is 4, 5. I can quickly check that in equation B. My check has to be with the other equation. I used A here, so I have to use B on my check. I can't use the same equation. 5 times 4 minus 4 times 5. And the question is, does that equal 0? And it does. So I have checked it by using equation B. So problem 21, 4 2/3 x minus 1/5 equals 3 2/3. We could do this in fractions. So the first step I would do is make them improper. Now you could add 1/5 to both sides here. But instead of doing that, I'll see that the least common multiple of the bottom numbers, 3 and 5, is 15. And I will multiply every term. 1, 2, 3 terms here. So I multiply each term. So I multiply everything on both sides by 15. When I do that, 15 divided by 3 becomes a 5. 15 divided by 5 becomes 3. And 15 divided by 3 becomes 5. And I can make this into a non-fraction problem. When I do that, I get 70x minus 3 equals 55. Add 3 to both sides. 70x equals 58. Now it's one term both sides, so I divide. X equals 58/70. I'll reduce because they're both even. Divide both by 2. I get 29/35 with the answer. Problem 22 is identifying the sets. And if you don't recall, there is our graph here. And since this has a radical in it, can't be reduced. That makes it irrational. And if it's irrational, it is also real. Everything we do this year in Algebra 1 is real. And finally, number 23 is a simplified problem. Since there are two terms on the top, you cannot just cancel. You must only cancel factors, which means you have to look at the top and factor the top first. Because exercise and equivalency. 4x squared times 1 is 4x squared. If I was to distribute it, 4x squared times y would be x squared y. And actually, I can't pull the 4 out. So we have to put the 4 in. That's why we check. So x squared times 4 minus y works. So what can I cancel now? I can cancel the x squared. And the answer is 4 minus y. Problem 24 is a substitution problem. We have tk equals 3, tm equals 2. So I will put in the two values and numbers here first and get those put in. So tk is here, so I'll plug in the 3. So I get 3rk plus 60 equals tm 2rm. Cross these off because I've used them. Now write the other equation, which is rk plus rm equals 125. Two equations, two unknowns. So it's solvable. This time, when I take a look at it, I think what I'll do is I'll do substitution. I'll subtract rk from this formula over here and write it as rm equals 125 minus rk. Rm, and what is Rm? Well, it's 125 minus Rk. That's the circle. 3Rk plus 60 equals 2 times 125 minus Rk. We distribute this. I get this. And I move Rk to the other side by adding 2Rk to both sides. And I'll subtract 60 at the same time. I'll get 5Rk equals 190. I'll get Rk equals 190 over 5. And once you find Rk, you can make that into a decimal or fraction here. 5 goes into 190. 5 goes into 120 times, so 40 minus 2, how about 38? If I want to find Rm, I just plug it back in, and Rm will be 125 minus 38, which is 87. Problem 25, again, I see it as a rational equation, 2, 5, and 10. So if I multiply every term by 10, I can do a simplification. And cancel. Here I'm left with 2. Here I'm left with 5. And I'll rewrite the problem. 5 times 3x minus 4 equals 1 times 2 equals x times 1. I distribute. I get 15x minus 20 plus 2 equals x. And I'll move the 15x to keep my work down to a minimum. Divide by negative 14. The sign always goes. Look left. Reduce that. You get 9/7 is the answer to problem 25. On problem 26, it says add. It also could say simplify if you want it. All right? And I look, and if I'm going to simplify this from 2 terms to 1, I need a common denominator, which I'll quickly identify as y times y plus 4, because these are not the same. You always have to multiply. So I'll have to multiply both the top and bottom, y plus 4, and y plus 4. And here I'll have to multiply by y and y. And I'm left with 4x squared times y plus 4 minus 2xy. No like terms, so that's the answer to problem 26. Problem 27, x to the 0. So, again, I'll write it as I go. 27. Negative x to the 0 is 1, minus x is negative 3. X minus y squared, start in the parentheses here, so negative 3, and then I see that this is here, so I'm going to write this out so you see that this will be positive 16, so I'm going to get negative 3 minus 16. And all the while, I should carry these with it. None of that can change out here. So I get negative 1 minus 3 times negative 19. Now I got to multiply before I add out the outside. So negative 1 minus, those two multiplied together are positive 57. The answer to that problem is negative 58. 28. And again, I'm going to do this in steps. Negative 2 can't change. But negative 2 minus 3, I know it's negative 5. Minus, parentheses, negative 2 to the 0 is 1. Minus the 3. Minus 3 to the 0 is 1. Minus 2 times negative 2. Now I'll start doing my multiplications. 10 minus a minus 1. Minus 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Minus 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Again, I still have some multiplications. 11 plus 3 is 14. The answer is 18. All right, at 29. Hopefully by this point you're comfortable with this. The exponent does not get to the negative sign, so you move that up to change the sign of the exponent only. And that leaves it over negative 1. So I get negative 27 for A. On the next one, I got to bring the 3 to the negative 3 to the bottom. So it's negative 127. Finally, on the last one, this negative stays on top. And negative 3, since it's in parentheses, the exponent just grabs parentheses, which grabs everything. That becomes this, which is negative 1 over negative 27, which is positive 127. All right, on problem 30, on problem 30, we need to distribute. So I'm going to distribute before I simplify. So I'm going to write it out. X negative 2, y negative 1. The outside thing times the inside. Outside thing minus, right there, the outside thing, x negative 2, y negative 1, times the inside thing. 4x squared, y 0, over y to the negative 3, quantity squared. Now I'm going to do some simplification. On the first term, I'll just do the top separate. Now you might be able to go faster. So I'm going to do this in steps. And over here, this is 1. I'm going to get 4x0, y negative 1. And on the bottom, y negative 3 squared. Y negative 3 times y negative 3. Negative 3 plus negative 2 negative 6. But we can do a shortcut and do the power rule. It's y negative 6. And now you got to do some simplification again. I'll start with the back term. The second term, and I'll bring 6 up and get y6 and get y5. You can also do that problem by just using the quotient rule. Remember, negative 1 minus a minus 6, positive 5. On the other one, these cancel. I would think the book would answer it this way. If I ask for positive exponents on a quiz, you have to bring that to the bottom. And that's the end of the lesson.